Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I've got another project for a client. It's a pretty simple one. She has these glass doorknobs that she's had for a while, and there's a couple different ones, but she's wanting them to be put on some wood for a coat rack. And so she said I could keep it simple, just make it, a little, if I could do a little bit of edging or something on the piece of wood, that would be great. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be attaching these onto a 1x6, add a little bit of molding appearance, and then we've got some keyhole brackets, which I've never used before. So we're gonna attempt to do that. And so if you're interested to figure out how all this goes, stay tuned. Okay, so to start off, I decided I wanted my spacing for my knobs to be about 5 inches from each other. And I have 5 of them, so I'm going to cut my 1x6 down to 30 inches, and then I'm going to cut another piece down to 33 inches, and you will see why. Once I had my 2 pieces cut, I took my 33-inch piece over to the table saw, and I ripped a piece that was 1 1/4 inches and another piece that was 1 3/4 inches. These measurements don't have to be precise and can vary depending on your aesthetic preference. I took these pieces over to my 1x6 and I layered them to give it a molding appearance. And then I made a line on the smaller piece about 3/4 inches from the ends to give it another layered appearance. Now's a good time for you to go ahead and sand your pieces. You can use a hand sander, but I personally like to have my little helper. He really enjoys the drum sander. Next, I found the center of the board and I marked my 5 lines where I would have to drill the holes for the knobs. I did all of the drilling at my drill press, but you can use a regular handheld drill. What I did was I took a Forstner bit that would match the size and depth of the bolt that I was going to use to screw into the back of these knobs. Once I had all of those holes drilled, I went ahead and switched out the Forstner bit with another bit that would match the size of my bolt, and I drilled all the way through the center of the Forstner bit holes, all the way through the whole piece of wood. This was my first time using these keyholes, and so what I did was I measured the same distance from each end, and using a square, I lined them up and made my lines, and then I decided the easiest way would be to use my router. So I found the bit that was just shy of the width of the keyhole inserts. I didn't have one that was the exact size, so after I did route it, I did go back with the chisel and kind of widened it just a little bit more. Once that part was done, I traced the center of the keyhole and I used my router bit again to dig out a hole just in the center so that I'd be able to fit my screw in. Next, I assembled the molding pieces to the 1x6, and I did this with just some wood glue and some brad nails. My client wanted a distressed look, but she wanted more stain with a little bit of white distressing. I wasn't quite sure how to do that, but what I started with was the stain as the base coat. And then for the white distressing, I took a very dry brush with very stiff bristles. It's actually just kind of a little broom sweeper thing. And I dipped it into the paint lightly and went over the wood, kind of did a dry brushing technique. Now all that's left is to put the knobs in through the holes. I did have 2 knobs that didn't have the capability, or at least the right pieces, to screw in a bolt. So I went with the epoxy route, which this is also my first time using epoxy. So what I did was I taped the holes on the back with just painter's tape on the 2 pieces that I was going to fill with epoxy. I got this Gorilla kind of 2-part system where you just squeeze it out and you mix it for 20 seconds and then you can pour it in the hole. I did put a wet wipe around the hole so that I wouldn't have all this spillover, and I thought that was a really good technique. I went ahead and I poured the epoxy into the holes, inserting the knobs in, just making sure that I had enough that it would harden around the base of those knobs. And then I took the wipe, cleaned around it, and that was about it for at least the epoxy pieces. The rest of the pieces just screwed in with the bolt and were tightened on the back side. And you'll see what it looks like here in a minute. And voila, this is what it looks like on the back side. The epoxy worked really well. Everything is nice and sturdy. I really liked how the distressing looks. It turned out a lot better than I expected. I did seal everything with a couple coats of shellac clear coat. And that's about it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this shelf and this tutorial. If you like this kind of content, please like, comment, subscribe, and we'll check you out next time.